Hi, my name is Ryan, and in this video we'll be creating this simple tooltip in HTML and CSS. So let's get started. Here in my HTML file I have a paragraph, and within this paragraph I've wrapped a few words inside a span tag. Now let's give this span tag a data attribute, and within this quotation marks we'll add in some content that we want to be displayed on the tooltip. And that's all we need for the HTML. Now let's move to our CSS file. First, I'll give the paragraph a margin of 30% on the top and the bottom and 20% on the left and the right, so that we have it somewhere in the center. Next, we'll give the span tag a font weight of bold. We'll increase the font size to 1.2 em, and as it is a tooltip, we'll give it a cursor of help. Finally, let's give it a position of relative. Now for the tooltip, we need to use the before pseudo element. So let's do that. I'll say span before, and for the content, I'll use the data tooltip attribute. Now, if you see in the browser, the content for the tooltip has been added. So let's move ahead. I'll give it a position of absolute. I'll give it a background color of RGBA 000 and an alpha channel of 0.7. Now I'll give it a padding of 1 em on the top and the bottom, 2 em on the left and the right. I'll give it a color of white. I'll give it a border radius of 7 pixels. I'll position it at a distance of 120% from the bottom, and from the right I'll position it at a distance of -50 pixels. And in order to prevent the text from wrapping up, we'll say white space, no wrap. And finally, we need to hide the tooltip because we only want to see it when we hover over the text. So we'll use the transform property and we'll say scale 0. Now we want the tooltip to be visible when we hover over the text. So let's work on it. I'll say span hover before, and we'll use the transform property and say scale to 1. Now let's check it out in the browser. Now when you see, the tooltip is visible when we hover over the bold text. Let's go to our index-final file for a moment, and if you check in the browser, you can see a downward facing arrow located at the bottom of the tooltip. So let's try creating it. I'll go to my styles.css file. Here at the bottom, let me make some space. This time we'll be using the after pseudo element. We'll set its content to nothing, and for the downward facing arrow we'll be using the border property, where the border top is going to have a color while the border left and the border right are going to be transparent. So let's do that. I'll say border top 7 pixel solid, and we're going to use the same RGBA color. The border left will be 7 pixel solid transparent, and the border right will also be 7 pixel solid transparent. Now if you see in the browser, we have a downward facing arrow. Now all we need to do is position it exactly at the bottom of the tooltip. So let me change the scale from 0 to 1 so that we can see the tooltip and accordingly position the arrow. I'll come down here and I'll set its position to absolute. I'll position it at a distance of 50% from the left. and from the bottom I'll position it at a distance of 85%. But we want these to be seen only when we hover over the bold text. So I'll set its opacity to 0, and up here for the tooltip I'll change the scale back to 0. Now for the arrow I'll say span, hover, after, and I'll change the opacity back to 1 on hover. So if we check it in a browser, we have a tooltip ready. And it was quite simple. So hope you liked it. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.